the criteria Latifi needs to do to get re-signed, not get last. Spar's back, and lights out, and away we go. And Lewis Hamilton is halfway to space.
Personally, go IndyCar over Williams.
Yeah, Grosjean Zhu?
Guan Yu
Zhou.
Guan
Yu Zhou. No,
Zhou
Zhou Guan
Guan
Yu. I said that the first time. George was already sitting in that seat.
Look, I don't agree with it, but you've asked a question. I'm trying to find a way to justify
And I'm just trying to absolutely tear your answer apart.
G'day, and welcome to Formula Bums on the Bench. My name is Jacko, and with me is one guest. Andy. I got nothing, man. I'm so unprepared for today.
That's fair. Josh was going to join us, but he was so distraught after last week. And the great news that Kyle Flanagan is a dragon now, like I said, that he decided not to be on.
He can't make it.
How do you feel about it?
You know what? It's the story of my life. I want to say the last couple of weeks has been like, you can feel that something not good is about to happen, but you just can't do anything to stop it. And then when it finally happens, you kind of feel half relieved, but then you're also like, I'm going to have to deal with this. It's the story of my life the last couple of weeks, man. Look, I don't think he's a great football player. And I don't think that's a controversial thing to say about Kyle Flanagan. He hasn't been brilliant. However, if there is a coach that might be able to get something out of him, you'd assume it'd be his dad, right? So, like, I think we have the best opportunity to see Kyle Flanagan do something. I doubt it, though. And
well, his
that
dad
even
coached
depends
him
if he gets the start.
Well, he won't. Let's be real. You've got Benny Hunt there at this stage. Unless he leaves.
Yeah. Dragons, man, look, if we're talking footy, we're talking about the finals, bro. Give a brother a break.
Nah, it's funny news. It's funny news.
So, I think Shane Flanagan's going to be a good coach for the Dragons. So
Do you?
taking Kyle out, yeah, I do, because if it's not going well, we'll just get on the roids and then we'll do really well for a couple of months. It's going to be sweet. So like we're going to get wins, whether they're legitimate or not. That's alleged and that's up for debate. But I like Shane Flanagan in commentary, and this is what I judge most of my opinion on. Every time he's in commentary, he's normally the only person who's able to understand the game of football that's happening in front of him. And that, for me, feels like a good sign for a coach. I'm not good at sports.
Well, then, by that case, Hook was a really bad coach because he doesn't sound like he knows what the fuck he's saying when he's in comms.
No, he was horrible. And, see, there you go. It's not that crazy of a theory because when he's been in commentary, it's just like, whose granddad got out of the home today?
It sounds like that. That's the sort of voice he puts on, isn't it? It's just this old man voice.
Oh, do you know what? No wonder why we did so poorly.
Fucking idiot.
He'd sit down to do his halftime speech. He'd get 4 words in and halftime be over. All the boys have to get back on the fucking field. He talks so slow.
What did it? You fucking curtain. The old Matty John Zach Lomax impression that he got told never to do again.
It was a good impression, though.
That was
the thing. It was a very good impression. So this is a combined episode. Now, Andy.
Yes.
Why is this a combined episode?
Because I'm really busy at work. Josh isn't here, and I forgot to hit record on Zambot when we recorded that.
So we have half an episode of Zanville good to go. It is literally me, and I sound absolutely insane because I'm talking like someone's reacting to me the whole time.
Because I forgot to hit the record button.
Yes, you did. It's the first one too. I'm shocked that we made it this far without that happening, and I'm even more shocked that it was you.
Yeah, I know. It was just... Look, the old setup, I couldn't see the front of the recording machine, so I couldn't see that it was a green button, not a red button. So I went and stole my partner's camping table and set the mixer up next to me so I could see the button today.
So we're all good to go. Which means you're getting a combination episode. So if you listen to us simply for non-motorsport, sucked in. But if you listen to us for simply only motorsport, also sucked in. This is a good compromise because everybody's a little bit disappointed at the end. And that's what my dad always taught me. A good compromise leaves everybody annoyed.
That's fair.
So, let's start with a wrap-up of Zandvoort. And because we've got a lot to cover, I think we do what we've been seeing all season. Lights out, Max wins.
That's basically it, except it was thrown into the fourth dimension twice. That race. 2 times it pissed down rain. Which is perfect. It should always be raining.
It was a really really good F1 race. And if you're listening and you've never really delved into what Formula One is as a sport, Zandvoort is the one to watch from this year. It was really, really exciting. It was also really tragic because that's where we saw Daniel Ricciardo break his wrist.
Yep.
But he's on the mend now.
He should be back this weekend.
And we saw the debut of Liam Lawson. No, not Liam. Was it Liam Lawson?
Yeah, it was Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson debuted at Zandvoort, but came out of his shell at Monza.
Fantastic. That kid has some serious talent.
Who's out of a job now? Who's genuinely out of a job? You got 4 seats to fill, and you got 5 drivers.
Okay. What are the seats we need to fill? That will help me clarify.
The full Red Bull seats.
Oh, the 4 Red Bulls. Okay.
So we already know Max is a lock. So you got 3 seats.
I got 3 seats. Okay. Well, I don't know if you've been paying attention to what a certain member of Red Bull thinks about one of their drivers at the moment.
Oh, yes, I did see that.
Here's what I would do. Now, you could say in some way I'm putting my helmet on before I have this discussion, and we'll leave it there. But I would move. Checo can stay in Red Bull because he's doing fine. I would fire Yuki and put Danny and Liam in that team.
Well, that's what it's looking like, all things considered, because from what I've been reading, Helmut's pretty keen to keep Daniel at AlphaTauri next year, or whatever it becomes. Hugo Boss Racing, I think, was a name I seen. I don't know. They're
Boss Racing is a good team name.
Well, they're changing it up. Like, they are changing it up. I can't remember what the name is, if they've even announced it, but it looks more likely that Daniel will stay there for next year and he'll be driving a carbon copy of this year's Red Bull, for at least as legally as they can do it. And then the other seat, Yuki's doing okay, but I think Liam's pushed enough to get that seat.
Yuki is having, and this is what is disappointing about Yuki Tsunoda. Last year and the year before, this is a very easy decision to make. You'd go, yep, Yuki doesn't have what it takes. However, every bit of development they've asked him to do, so, you know, they got him working with a sports psychologist to work on that, like, mental strength and character so he can stay calm under pressure. And then his race results have improved. This year, it's very hard not to say, well, you know what, Yuki's kind of earned a shot at next year, and he has. He's done quite well this year in a car that's really not good. And last year's car was particularly horrible. But Liam has done, in 2 races, because we've got to talk about Monza as well, which he just absolutely killed.
Yeah.
He's done enough that you can't not give him a seat. And there's no way I'm telling Daniel that his time in the sport's done. Like, that's just not an option for me. My bias is there. So, unfortunately, it has to be Yuki go, because you can't really replace Checo. Yep, he's not maybe had the best qualifying, but it really hasn't hindered the season. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter what he's up to. Max is having one of those freak years where it's like, oh, no, he will win the World Constructors by himself if he has to.
He already is.
Yeah.
Like,
so
it's unreal.
Checo's got to stay.
I see that. I see the argument for that, but I think we all know what Red Bull's like. Red Bull's more than likely going to be like on Christmas Day, hey, Checo, you're sacked. Like the old Tiny Tim story.
Yep. And, you know, money does involve in this. Daniel has not performed at his peak over the last couple of years. He's still worth a lot of money. But, you know, you can probably put him in that Red Bull on unders for what you are paying Checo at the moment. Safely in saying, look, man, we're bringing you in. You get a shot at the top seat. It's going to cost you a little bit of your paycheck. And then, there's that aspect of it too where they might just play the money game and go, well, we're going to bump Max up to the max we can pay him.
But no, the Max is already the most paid driver in Formula One at the moment.
Yeah, but he's probably getting a pay rise after this year anyway.
I doubt that, since he's signed till 2028.
Oh, true.
He signed like the monster contract. He's not. You don't go back to the negotiation table just because old mate's won 3 championships in a row.
I would be. 100% would be. I would. That's me.
That's why you're not running a business.
Yep. So that's my take on that seat. I thought, and the other thing we've got to talk about, Zandvoort, is the McLarens are in the ascendancy at the moment. So that team is pulling themselves out of the ground. They looked really, really good. Oscar's doing everything he needs to in a rookie year. He's having a really good rookie year. Lando, and I said this, I need to say it again, his driving is starting to really, really impress me, and so's his maturity. I still like hanging shit on him, but God, he's gotten good this year. He's really good this year.
Mm-hmm. I think the only thing that's letting him down is the fact that McLaren's probably 6 months behind the Red Bull.
Yeah, that initial development package that they brought out at the start of the year wasn't acceptable to begin the season, which was disappointing because it did limit not only Lando competing against Max at the start of the year, but also Oscar being able to show what true pace he has. What I've liked about it, though, and what I think this development cycle has given Oscar compared to Lando is it's shown that he can drive very, very close to his teammate in a pretty okay back of the grid car. The second they turn that around on a dime and it's now a front of the pack car, Oscar is still right there. You know what I mean? That skill gap is there. It's not like what we saw with, and it was really unfortunate what we saw with Pierre and Alex when they stepped up into the Red Bull. They went from doing overperforming in a midfield car to really, really struggling in a top of the field car. And I know there's differences, but the optics of this looks good moving forward for that kid's career.
And the other thing that you're not taking into consideration too is the fact McLaren now have an on-site wind tunnel.
Finally open?
I'm pretty sure it's what's his fucking name? Seidel's dream has become a reality while Seidel's at Sauber.
Bad move by him, though. I'm throwing that out there.
Is it though? That money from Audi, a new Audi Works deal, like it's a chance for him to completely
move for this year.
Oh yeah, but it's always going to be hard work doing that sort of thing. Of course.
What
But
were
it
your
shows
other
that
big
he can
takeaways?
do it. What were my big takeaways? Max will win every race for the rest of the year.
Are we going to go on like that's a pretty much guarantee for you now? Like that's
absolutely. Unless his car spectacularly fails, and even then, I still think he'll win the race by 20 seconds. Like
that Red Bull is so reliable this year. So
reliable. I was doing some research for once in my life. I know, shocking, right? Do you remember in Baku when Sergio won?
Mm-hmm.
And Max sort of started clicking right at the end of that race, but it wasn't quick enough to get to Sergio. The reason that was because him and GP were just trying a few settings. And the last setting that GP said, hey, try this, everything clicked. And since then, Max has known how to drive this fucking car.
Right, okay. Which is a luxury no other person on this grid gets to have, where you can literally take half a race off and turn it into a really glorified practice session, cars at full temperature, fuel loads run. Like, that's brilliant by those two.
And the kicker it was a sprint race where this happened. Wasn't the real race because he won the real fucking race. You know what I mean? Like, he's a freak. Absolute freak what he's doing this year.
I enjoy it too. Like,
well, of course Max, you do, you fucking Verstappen shagger.
Yeah, big time. I'm also really enjoying watching Max kind of not be as angry and lean into like that funny, cheeky side that he has. Like, a lot of his press conferences are really, really funny. Where they're like, so Max, what's it going to take to win today? He's like, well, better come first, eh? Yeah. Yeah.
It is. It is classic Max, those sort of things. But
Which is
other
why we
than
need
that,
him and Danny back together.
I know. Whether that happens or not, it's another story. It's all about whatever Marco wants, I guess.
He's a weird dude.
Yeah. Oh,
But that was
did you know?
right?
Yeah, that's pretty much Zamball. Red Bull can win the constructors this weekend, by the way.
And how many races are left?
A heap. So here's the two scenarios in which it can happen. Red Bull scores a 1-2, more than likely, and Mercedes fail to score. Less likely. Or Red Bull 1-2, Red Bull gets a fastest lap, and Mercedes score 1 point or less. If one of those two scenarios happen, then Red Bull are the world champions again in Singapore.
It's a very long way out for that to happen. I don't think that will occur. I think the Mercedes are going to score points.
Okay, but either way, if that's what it is for this weekend, then next weekend it's going to be significantly easier.
Oh, absolutely.
Japan.
I'm saying we're 2 or 3 weeks out from a world championship ceremony. Like it's coming very soon. I just don't think it's going to be at Singapore.
Who's the one that tells Max he wins the world championship in the pit lane? Is it Coulthard? Do they bring Johnny Herbert back for one race?
No, can we? You know what? Make Lewis do it. No, don't do that. No, look, I would love it to be Nico Rosberg.
Hey, mate, you beat Lewis Hamilton in a car that's significantly better than him. It's not as good as when I beat him in the same car, though.
Yeah. Yep. So when are you going to actually beat him as a teammate so it's real then, Max? How are your antibodies? Strong?
Fucking hell. He would too.
Yeah, no, look, I just hope that when it is announced, someone just checks and gives it the green light to be like, yes, we are 100% confirmed that you are the world champion. Like, it doesn't need to be in the pit lane directly after the race if you're not sure. Just like figure it out and announce it once. That's what I want. I don't care how.
You know what you do? You know how you do it? They have the interviews after the race, right? But you don't mention shit. You tell whoever's doing the interviews to shut the fuck up about it. He goes into the cool down room. They have their little Max Verstappen podcast with these two new guests. And then as he comes out to accept, you know how they call him out third, second, first? Just be like, and you're 2024 world champion, first place Max Verstappen. Boom, there you go. That's a good way to do it.
That's perfect.
Simple.
Yeah, done.
But you got to get him to have his podcast first because that's important.
I love the cool down room, and I'm glad it's back. It is very awkward. It's an awkward thing to like listen in on.
I love it
because like I do too. But like, let's be real. Max isn't a normal human being.
No,
we've got to
make
that very clear. He's very weird. And like any athlete at the top of the game is an inherent weird person. So it's just strange when they talk about it. I like when Alonso's in there.
He's just happy to be there.
Yeah, he's happy to be there. We then also had Monza.
Yes, but let's come back to that later and let's do as we are doing a hybrid show, let's take a break on Formula One and talk about Sport Ball.
Sport Ball. Okay, so NFL's back.
Oh, can we talk about the big news from the NFL, please? Because it's really funny.
New York Jets?
Yes.
Yeah, oh my God. So I don't know if anyone's seen this online at the moment, but there is already a season highlights reel for the new quarterback of the New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers, who... Former MVP
Aaron Rodgers, the man who was dubbed to save New York this year. He got 4 plays into his career at New York, and he's done.
ACL went. And if you've seen the replay... Achilles went. And if you've seen the replays, it's a full tear. You can...
Oh, yeah, you see it.
There's a slow-mo of his leg. It's horrible. And I feel bad for him too. It's also impressive that like he's in his 40s, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That blows my mind. That and Tom Brady did it too. Like that, those quarterbacks can play at that level for that long.
Well, it's pretty simple with the way that they play the game because as long as they're not getting hit, they're not running very far. They're just throwing the ball pretty quickly out of the pocket. So
Yeah,
you can survive not being fit. You just got to have an arm on you.
Yeah, so I want to be an NFL fan. I really do.
Great, I love it.
And I like the sport. Yeah, no, I really like it. It's just I haven't found enough time dedicated to sit down and watch it properly or access it in the ways I want. I think it is one of the best highlight sport reels on the planet because every time they're in motion, something cool's happening.
Yeah, every tackle's a car crash. And it's okay because they're wearing pads. So you don't feel as bad for these guys getting crunched. Whereas in the NRL, they get crunched. You're like, oh, has he got a concussion? Oh, is his shoulder all right? Oh, that looks like whiplash.
I think it was KO who did the video where they showed NRL highlights to NFL players.
Yeah, they've done that.
Yep.
They've also done it on like Jimmy Fallon. I want to say it was on. I think it was on Jimmy Fallon as well. They did the same thing. They showed rugby highlights to NFL stars.
But it's always one answer they all come back with is, I can't believe they're not wearing helmets.
Yeah. But my favourite was when The Rock got shown some NRL highlights leading up to the World Cup. Because The Rock was really involved. He's actually, he's reached out to a lot of the Samoan players because he's Samoan heritage, just to reach them well. And I believe it's Brian Toto from the Panthers actually has The Rock's number in his phone. And he just reaches out to him every now and then, and The Rock will send him a heartfelt message back, just being like, bring it home for Samoa and shit like that. But The Rock got shown all these things, and he, former professional wrestler, does all these stunts, and even he was shocked by some of the shit that he was watching.
Because it is, and we say it all the time, American sports are a lot of fun. They have the most money in the world, the best broadcasting in the world, and because a lot of their culture, their whole education system has a large sports component to it that ours really doesn't. So all our sports clubs are like private after school. College football, there is absolute scenes happening in college football at the moment. You had the Enter Sandman walk-on, which was just
That's something
mental.
I want to be a part of. If I was in college, if I'd have known about that when I was in uni, I would have tried to go there just for that.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
I think it's University of Virginia.
Yes, it's not the Carolinas because I watched them play the other day, North and South Carolina, because I thought that'd be a fun game.
I'm pretty sure it's an orange team, that's for sure.
It is, yep, they are orange.
But they're fucking, what would you say it? The cult around it. College football's bigger than fucking NFL in a way.
It is, and March Madness is also incredibly popular with the basketball.
That's always fun to watch.
Yeah, it's awesome that the spheres of influence are starting to cross over. So we're starting to accept more American sports, and even our local advertisers are talking about it. But then also the NRL's heading over to Vegas at the start of next year.
Yeah, without a few stars, though.
Mm-hmm.
So not only will the Chookies be losing Jared Warrior-Hargraves, but it looks like the Bunnies' marquee signing of Jack Byton won't be there.
Now, we need to talk about this. So,
the funniest
it is the first weekend of the NRL National Rugby League finals, which means there are 2 elimination finals and two preliminary finals. Yeah, qualifiers.
Qualifiers, not preliminary.
Qualifiers.
The preliminaries the week before.
Right.
So the way it works is your 2 qualifiers qualify you for one of the preliminary finals if you win, and if you lose, you get a second chance in week 2.
Against the winner of the elimination finals.
Yes. First game
Where do you
was a
want to
qualifier.
start?
Let's just go through it one by one because the first game was a cracker. It was Melbourne-Brisbane in a qualifying final, 2 versus 3. And the scenes from that coach's box. That coach's box, man.
Biblical is how I would describe it.
Bellyache had an all-time meltdown. It was great. And the best part of the footage is there's a little Broncos fan in the back of the mirror just going, yeah, fuck you, flipping him off. He's like a 12-year-old.
Bro, so it's a sold-out Suncorp Stadium in the middle of Brisbane. And it is
52,000.
I'm going to say it's full of 51,990 Broncos fans.
Yeah, absolutely. There was only like 10 Storm fans in there.
There was 10 Storm fans. And the Broncos just came out and played such a fun game of footy. And Melbourne, I have never seen them play so poorly as a team.
No, no one has.
It was horrifying. So here's the people who played well for Melbourne. Jerome Hughes.
Yep.
And
that's about it.
Harry
the guy
Grant.
who had... No. The guy who had bellyache's walkie-talkie and managed to hold it the whole game. He was the
give
star.
that man a medal.
Having
Give
that
that man a
much
medal.
yelling... Because Bellyache went off every opportunity they cut to him. He was just losing his fucking shit until the moment that broke the NRL's heart.
Yeah.
We have to mention it. And it's probably the moment that saved Melbourne from an all-time spray.
Yeah, look, it did. So Ryan Pappenhausen, who is, I want to say, probably one of the most popular young footballers in the country and has been for a while. Like, he's just good for the game.
Great mullet. Great fucking footy style. He's an X factor. And
He's a New South Welshman.
Exactly. That's the most important part, to be honest.
and went down in a bad tackle and broke his ankle.
It wasn't his fault he broke his ankle. It was the fat fucker on top of him that broke it. It was his teammate.
The other thing, so we will go back and talk about Paps because it was genuinely a heartbreak moment. Like, it took all the fun out of the evening for, I want to say, most of the country.
Yeah, everyone was just like thoughts and prayers with Paps.
Yeah, and like you go on Reddit, and normally the after game chats are a lot of fun because it's people hanging shit on each other. Every single person was like, "Hey man, that was a really good game. Fuck, we're sorry about Paps."
Yeah,
everybody.
And everyone hates Melbourne, but they were all sorry about Paps.
And because this is the thing, it was his second game back from a year-long injury after having. They said it was a fractured patella, but we've seen the X-rays. It was an obliterated patella. His kneecap was destroyed.
I believe it was 17 places. Like that's what his knee was left at.
Yep. Got absolutely demolished in that. The funniest thing, and I hope both players are okay, but did you see the head clash between the two Melbourne players coming around to tackle? Yeah, bro. I felt bad, but it also was just like that 3 seconds sums up Melbourne's game that night. Where it's just like they went for a really big tackle, and I tell you what, if they connected, would have drilled him, but they hit each other and conked each other out. We're talking a lot about Melbourne. There's one more bit about Melbourne I want to bring up before we talk about how good the Broncos were. Because it's not fair just to say Melbourne was shit, because the Broncos were fantastic as well.
Yeah, but it is fair to say Melbourne was shit because Melbourne is shit.
Yes, no, I'm saying it's fair to say they're shit, but we also have to say how good the Broncos were too. Cameron Munster.
Yeah.
Now, Cameron Munster is a freak on the football field. He's incredibly talented. It pains me to say it, but he's very good at what he does.
No, I don't know what you're saying. He's fucking shit.
He's a bad sport, though.
He's a very bad sport. And
he's a bad sport.
I'm all for hanging shit on him because he's a Queenslander and he plays for Melbourne. But he's done some pretty, controversial things on a footy field when he's losing. And I think Brisbane really turned me off him, the way he played. Once they were in the losing zone, it's the same as Cody Walker. As soon as the Rabbitohs start losing, Cody Walker does similar shit. I'm just like, this is fucking shit. Why you do that?
And that's the thing too, like, there are players out there who are allowed to get away with being grubs.
Jared Hargraves, Victor Radley.
Yep. No, but think like Josh Maguire, right? Which is like, you're not talented, but you're an old school infuriating enforcer. Get on there and annoy the shit out of them because you can't play footy. Cameron Munster is a really good football player. Really good. Like he's a fucking 5'8" for our country. He's that good. And yet the second it's not going his way, it's treading on fingers, it's sliding in with the knees, it's
kicking someone in the back of the head.
Kicking someone in the back of the head.
Like, it's a joke.
Yeah. And it's so disappointing because, that's the thing. You've got the talent, man. Just take a few deep breaths and play footy a little bit better. Your team will win. We've seen you turn around games by yourself. But not because you tread on people's fingers, because you're really good at playing football. So just play the fucking game, man.
I know.
Brisbane, though, I think I love Reece Walsh.
You just want him on the Dragons, don't you?
Everybody wants Reece Walsh on their team. Would you keep Teddy or Reece this year?
I'll take Reece.
Yeah, it's hard, hey. He's really fun.
It's hard, but then also there's Joey Manu, so it's like I don't need either, to be honest.
Valid. Very, very valid. But when you support a team like mine and you've got like one or two good players, you take what you want.
Who's good?
Benny Hunt.
He's leaving.
No. Well, he's the two good players on the team, Ben and Mr. Hunt. There you go. There's the fucking good players on our team. That's a lie. I like all of the Dragons. But Brizzy looked
Get it right.
good.
You only like Blake Laurie because he shares
I love
wings
Blake
with
Laurie. I wish. Do you know what? That's one of my dreams for this show is that we get to a stage where we get reached out and he's like, "Hey, bro, come over for dinner and we have wings together." I don't think it's that unrealistic of an expectation. But Blake,
Fair.
if you are listening, I've never said shit. That was an AI voice modulating me. Hit me up, bro. I love sharing chicken wings. Even though you
Especially
don't.
from Sneaky.
And you fucking eat all of them at Sneaky Burger every time we win or lose, and there's no fucking wings there for me. But apart from that, hit me up, bro. You look good with a beard too. Broncos are on fire.
Broncos are probably my dark horse to win this. I don't... As much as it pains me to say, I think the Broncos should win it. I do. Because I hate Penrith. I hate the Riff.
You know we're over Penrith when we're like, how nice would it be for Queensland to win? Like that's where we're at the moment where we're like, fuck yeah, Queensland.
But in saying that, the Riff have to go through the important game this week.
And they've got... Who they got?
So they've got the winner of Melbourne versus another team we need to talk about.
Roosters.
Yeah, best team in the world. We do not deserve to be where we are.
No way. Yeah, no way in hell. Like, the fact that you made the 8 was like, oh, damn, I can't believe they managed to hold their season together well enough to get in. And then you beat the Sharkies in an incredibly exciting game.
And we're wounded as fuck now because of it.
Yes. Yeah,
It's 4 of our top 5 players in the back line are gone. Joey Manu's out with a hamstring tear again. Billy Smith played 35 minutes with a broken fucking jaw. Who else is out? Daniel Tupou's still out from the injury he got 2 weeks ago. Fucking Suolii's out concussed. So our back line this week looks terrible in comparison to Melbourne's. But the main thing is James Tedesco's still there. Sammy
Teddy's
Walker,
still there.
the king of Bondi, is still there. Luke Keary's still there. And the cheese is going back to Melbourne to show him why he wants to be a Rooster.
It's going to be a absolute brutal match. Melbourne's also not coming in completely well either. So Paps obviously is out for a significant amount of time. Xavier Coates is out, and he's their most devastating try scorer. So you can kind of wipe 3 tries off the scoreboard already by him just not being there because he's a freak in the air.
On top of that,
go on.
Just looking to see if there's any more. So Yong Tunomapea is also out this week. Tonomapea. Pizzette's still out. Jonah Pizzette, who I actually know someone who knows him. Played footy with him growing up. Guy I work with actually grew up playing footy with him.
Well, there you go.
Apparently he's a fucking gun. And, of course, George Jennings is out and Dean Iramami is out for Melbourne. The only ones that matter are Pappenhausen, Coates, and Tonomapea, to be honest. Whereas the Chookies, this is how bad we look at the moment. Manu out. Momirovski back. Walker back. Suolii out. Billy Smith done for the season. Jared Hargraves knocked himself out by being an idiot for the season. Daniel Tupou should be back next week. Connor Watson still hasn't played a game this year.
What's
And
up
of course,
with him? Because
he did his knee in preseason and he hasn't been able to get it right.
right, because I've noticed his absence, and I like Connor Watson. I think he's a really fun footy player to have on the team.
He could have changed it so much for us this year if he was around. And of course, Satili's still out.
He is my favourite second rower in the competition. When he can hold on to the ball, he's devastating.
I just think back to like one of his first games he played. It was against Melbourne. It was in I want to say it was 2019. Trell was still there. Yeah, Trell was still there, and game was going to go to Golden Point, and or it might have gone to Golden Point. Anyway, Teddy got a pass off to Tupanua. Barnstorms through the Melbourne line, makes 40 metres up the field. Next play is literally the ball goes straight back to Latrell. He kicks a field goal from 40 out, and Trell ran straight to the Melbourne fans because they were in Melbourne and was fucking celebrating right in front of them. One of the last good things Trell ever did.
It's been a very interesting year for him. And like we've watched the Rabbits kind of self-destruct at the end of the season, so we're fine with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
That was one of the elimination finals. The other elimination final was just as exciting.
I want to say it was the probably the best finals game in the last 20 years.
It's up there. You know what? I haven't gone back and I can't scientifically state it, but I said after the game, I was like, that might be one of the most exciting games of footy I've ever watched.
It was unreal, that game. I mean,
it was
of course,
Knights
we're talking
versus
about
Raiders.
Exactly, and lots of things came out of it. Of course, the one I really like is Jack Whiten's new nickname.
Jack Biden. So
he
let's break that down a little bit.
So he went from Jack Whiten, his real name, to Jack Fighton because he got caught fighting out in front of Civic in Canberra.
Yep.
And now he's gone from Jack Fighton to Jack Biton because he's been accused of biting Tyson Gamble. And been found guilty
of biting Tyson Gamble. He's now suspended for 3 games.
Couldn't happen to a nicer bloke.
You know what? I don't think you could announce that you're going to the Bunnies any better than by biting some dude on a footy field. It just sings to me. It's like, yep, that's fucking South Sydney right there. As for the actual game that was played, holy shit. I don't think there was a 5-minute period where it couldn't have gone either way. Back and forth the whole game. And then into extra time.
So, did you realize it was extra time, not Golden Point?
Yes, because it's a finals, and that's what the broadcasters did a good job of reminding me. But they went, we're going to do 2 5-minute halves of extra time, and then after that, we're going to go into unlimited 5-minute halves of Golden Point until someone scores.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that at all. So when Ponga kicked the fucking penalty, I thought the game was over, so I turned it off.
there was a little bit more to go, but not much, man. It was over then.
Yeah, I feel bad for the Raiders. I think the way the Raiders played in that second half, they probably deserved another try. They did.
Yeah, they did. I like the Raiders. I think they're a pretty neutral team to support. For some reason, they don't seem to be caught up in all this team rivalries or things like that. So Canberra's a fun team to support. Sticky's just an absolute lunatic, so he's always great to support.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good football club to hang around and watch. I wanted them to win, but I did tip the Knights, so I was a very conflicted game all weekend. The only tip I got wrong was the Roosters game.
I got all 4 right, and now I'm tied first in our fucking tipping comp.
I'm not last anymore, so I'm stoked. Now, the big question is, and here's the game we're not talking about that happened, which was Penrith and Warriors. Warriors came out and did okay, but Penrith were just better.
The thing we need to mention about that is Warriors finals really start this week. Not having Sean Johnson last week, they couldn't have gone into it thinking they could win. No one was going to win that game without the Daily M candidate in the team.
And just a man who is very, very much in form and moving well within the team. It's been cool to watch Sean Johnson go back to the Warriors and just, take them to the finals.
No, I agree.
There were aspects of that Warriors Penrith game that did show where Penrith's weakness is at. And it's all to do around the offloading of the ball. It's exactly what Parramatta did to him a couple of weeks ago. And the only try the Warriors scored was from that offload.
Yeah, so I feel like Penrith's defense is it's very structured and they get, 2 to 3 people to wrap the ball up. But the moment you do that, you do leave space. So if that ball comes out, it's on. You can find space, and that's all some players need. Players like Sean Johnson just need tiny bit of space, and then they could probably find a try. Yeah.
So I didn't expect the Warriors to go in and win. I don't think Penrith...
Did.
Yeah, no. I don't think Penrith are... They're still the team to beat. I still think they're the best team. But I don't think they're as bulletproof this year as they have been last year.
No, I agree. I think there's obvious holes that you can open Penrith up in. It's not going to be an easy job beating them, but it's doable. Last year, I didn't think it was doable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I thought it was... as soon as Penrith made that grand final, I was like, well, this is a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, they were as much as I wanted to lose last year.
As much as I wanted Para to win, I didn't see it happening.
Yeah, I still... Every time Para gets brought up, I just remember me at the start of this year being like, nope, they're going back in, boys. They'll get it this year. And then just, no.
They're not even in the finals.
No. So, Luai's still out, though, isn't he?
He's back next week.
He's back next week, which is a shame because Cogger is phenomenal.
I'm pretty sure Cogger's going to Nui next year.
He is. They snaked him out of it. I tell you who we haven't seen debut, or we've seen him play 1 or 2 games, and I don't know if he's out injured or not, but Volkman, who went from the Roosters to the Warriors.
Yeah, I don't think he's absolutely ready.
Yep.
So that's why he hasn't played. I imagine we'll see him next year.
I hope so.
I'm pretty confident we'll see him next year.
Everyone says that he's pretty fantastic and he's going to be good, but Cogger's done a really, really good job stepping in when he's needed to at every point this year. It's impressive to watch playing in that team. It's like, okay, you've stepped in and fit in really, really well. But, when you're playing behind Nathan Cleary, Isaiah Yeo, and you've got that set up, it is pretty, you can be relatively confident that you're going to do a decent job in that role.
You realise Volkman's the Warriors, not the Penrith, right?
No, I said that. But I went to talk back about Cogger. Or did I say Volkman at the start of the sentence?
You said Volkman.
Cogger. Oh, Cogger. I meant Cogger. Both stand true, though, because, stepping in that Warriors team, they look really good this year. What is the result of this weekend's finals going to be? Who's going to get over who? So you've got the busted Melbourne and Roosters playing each other.
Yep.
And you've got the Warriors and Knights playing each other.
Okay, I'm going to start with the easy one first. The Warriors will beat the Knights. Warriors are playing at home. I just can't. Here's the thing. Newcastle's flying to New Zealand tomorrow. So they got a couple of days over there. But Hastings is out. I think Hastings being out, and even though Adam Clune is a solid half, I think Sean Johnson, if he plays, he's going to tear the house down with the Knights. And with that Warriors crowd behind him, you know what I mean? It's hard to see the Warriors not winning and going on and playing Brisbane in Brisbane next week.
And then getting knocked out probably by Brisbane. I think it's a safe bet to say that the grand final at this stage will be Brisbane v Penrith.
Agreed. However, my heart says the Chookies beat the Storm and my brain says the Storm flog the Chookies.
I reckon
and if that happens, and the Roosters beat the Storm, then the Roosters will beat Melbourne next week and Roosters are the champions this year.
So if you beat the Storm...
I think if we beat the Storm, because this week will be the single greatest Roosters finals win in the history of the Sydney Roosters.
It's going to be better than beating them in the grand final.
Well, no. Here's the reason why. We've got fucking second string wingers. We got third string fucking centers. We don't have JWH in the front row, but Lindsay Collins is there. Fucking Crichton's coming
of the year.
Crichton's coming off the bench. Fucking Siwa Wong has become an absolute superstar. If we can hold our head, and I genuinely mean that for one player, they hold their anger, we get over Melbourne, we have the play to break Penrith open, and we could beat Penrith. That's my heart saying. My brain says even if we get through this week, we're getting fucking flogged next week. But my heart says Chookies are the champions this year.
Do you know what? I think that's what the beauty about sport really is, where it's like you still believe. Like, statistically, chances are it's going to be very hard to beat Melbourne and even harder to beat Penrith.
Oh, absolutely.
But
I've said from the start, if you beat Penrith, I'd put my house on you winning the premiership.
Yeah, and that's the thing. But there's still a chance, and I would love to see it. It would be so much fun to watch someone not Penrith or Brisbane like sneak through. Like, imagine if the Warriors sneak through. That'd be awesome. Imagine, and God forbid the Knights fucking get it, but it would be kind of cool to see. But let's leave the footy there, because I think that's where we're at with that. Do you have any other sports ball to talk about?
I wanted to talk about the fact that they've moved the NRLW game tomorrow.
Go on.
So it was originally scheduled tomorrow night between the Tigers and Newcastle out at Campbelltown Stadium. But due to the fact that the air quality has dipped so hard in Campbelltown, they've had to move it to Leichhardt Oval.
Damn. Has something happened out there recently?
Yeah, they're back burning.
Oh, right. I had no idea that was going on. I was like, well, I knew it wasn't a great part of the city, but like, damn.
Yeah, no, they've had to move it because of the back burning.
Okay, well, that's good that they're looking out for player safety. It's unfortunate this year, mate. I haven't had as much time as I wanted to get around the NRLW. I think it's going to be my watch on replay when the NRL ends. Mm-hmm. Because cricket never quite... The Big Bash is fun, but a game of footy over cricket pretty much any day of the week for me.
Yeah, unless it's a T20, I can't fucking watch cricket these days.
Exactly, right? So
I have to watch it.
That's fair. Is there any big news going on in the soccer at the moment?
No, because the EPL's been on winter break. Oh, not winter break, but it's been on a break for international duties. Fucking Harry Maguire apparently scored an own goal against Scotland.
He's done that like a lot, hasn't he? Like, he's scored more than one own goal.
Well, I think the problem with Harry Maguire at the moment is he can't get a run in at Manchester, which is his like club. Because they won't pick him because he's shithouse. And he had an opportunity. He did have an opportunity to leave in the summer, but he turned down West Ham, and I think that was for the better.
Did you see... Actually, I do have some EPL news. Did you see that blow up by Postecoglou at Tottenham?
No.
So he's in the film room. And... Oh, sorry.
You all right?
Yeah. It was just a work one came through. He was in the film room watching, and he was talking about defense, and then it's a very Australian thing. So he's like, you see that? You see how there's 3 players back there, What are you going to fucking make sure of? And just goes absolutely and slams his fist on the wall. And I'm like, all right, that's what he's like.
What did he expect? He went to fucking Tottenham.
Well, you have a very biased perspective on Tottenham.
That's because Tottenham is shit.
Thank you.
And shit is Tottenham.
That's all right.
I fucking love that chant so much.
Oh, it is. You know what? The US sports scene is so much fun to be part of because there's always like 150,000 people there and then another 100,000 in the car park, and they're all drunk and they're all just screaming. It's cool. English sport is even more impressive because they've all been drinking since the day they were fucking born, and they can all sing the same songs and they make them up on the fly.
Oh,
And
some
they've
of
got
their
music.
songs are great.
Bro, the who were they chanting to the other day that your teeth are offside? Gold.
Oh, they used to chant that at Luis Suarez.
Yeah, Suarez, your teeth are offside.
They used to chant Ozil that his eyes were offside because he had bug eyes. Nah, they had
it's
a really
harsh.
They had a really good one. So, do you remember what I showed you Luton Town's stadium?
Yes.
So they had their first game at Luton Town Stadium in the Premier League before the international break.
How'd they go?
So they got flogged by West Ham 2-1.
Oh, well, so you're happy.
I was stoked, but we're talking about chants. As the West Ham were leaving, you can see into a bathroom window, so they started chanting, "We can see you have a bath," through at the people in the windows.
Fucking hell, man. It's got to be such a love-hate thing living in that suburb, Luton, where it's like, oh, we're finally in the Premier League, and then you live near the stadium, it's like, oh, there are going to be so many thousands of people in my backyard every weekend.
Yep,
Going
it's
berserk.
great. It's fucking fantastic. But they had a few good chants during the game as well. So I think Kurt Zuma scored he scored a header off a corner to I think that was the one that got us the win. So the fans start chanting about him kicking his cat a few years ago. So it was something Kurt Zuma, he wears a magic hat. Something about him kicking a cat and he'll throw it fucking back. And then it goes on to say that West Ham was winning the Europa League this year. It was basically a song aimed at him kicking a cat, but just pulling it back to West Ham will win the Europa League this year.
And you're hearing that as a West Ham fan being as the player in question, Zuma being like, well, I agree with half of that chant. Have you? And on sports news, I'm still currently working my way through Ted Lasso. Fantastic. And
Glad you're liking that.
That's the thing, right? You know what I'm like with watching TV? It's
Yeah,
that good of a sports show. I can't do it.
You have ADHD. You can't sit there and just watch a show. You have to be doing 14 other things.
Yep. Yeah, maybe.
That's why it's I'm like, what am I? I think. Hold on, I want to tell you where I'm at because I've been watching another sports show as well. I'm pulling up the episode because there's a lot of episodes in this. I am up to episode 252 of Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z is so good. Hey, UFC happened on the weekend too. Big upset.
I was in town.
Yeah, Sydney, wasn't it? Or Perth?
Yeah, it was up in Sydney.
Sydney. So,
did you watch the final fight? Because that's the only one I watched.
I didn't manage to watch the whole thing, man, and then I searched for replays, and I could only find the replay of the American anthem playing in the background, and every shot he landed with a gunshot. But that summed it up pretty well. Where it was a very controversial UFC weekend, my man. There's a lot of things were said.
So, I want to talk about that fight because my boss doesn't like Shane Strickland. He thinks he's a bit of a prick.
He is.
But the reason he doesn't like him is the reason I sort of respected him at the end of that fight.
Why? Go on.
So first round went to Shane pretty clearly. I think it was 10-9 Shane.
Sean.
Second,
yes, but it did.
Sean, whatever.
Yeah,
Shane
sorry, bro.
Shane Strickland's a fucking footy player, I want to say.
Yeah, probably.
Shane Strickland's a person. I know that's a thing.
Oh, without a doubt.
I'm looking it up. Okay, yeah, I know why I know the name Shane Strickland now.
Why?
He's also known as Swerve Strickland in AEW. He's a pro wrestler. But so Sean Strickland, fucking second round sort of went to him. I'd say third and fourth round went to Israel. Or was it second, third, Israel, fourth, Sean? And then in the fifth round, Sean sort of pummeled him. And in the last 30 seconds, he's just looking at Israel. He's like, come on, fucking hit me. Do something, just fucking really arcing up at him. And Israel's got nothing for him.
Yeah, there was quite a few people who came out, and even Dana came out and said, hey, that something was up with Izzy. That wasn't his normal, and it wasn't. From all the
I
little
think
clips
I
I've
think
seen.
it was a matchup. I don't think the matchup was correct for Izzy, because Izzy was
Definitely
looking for.
not.
Because Izzy really needed to knock him out to win, and he just couldn't find the moment. Whereas Sean sat back, was pretty reserved for the first 4 things, and took his chances when they came. And when they came, like, he landed a few fucking good hits, though. They were great.
Very, very and he's not traditionally seen as a strike-based fighter. Like, he's a very good kind of, I know he's got a bit more of a street style. Like, you'll a little bit like Nate Diaz, where it's like, oh yeah, he'll stand and throw a few punches here and there, but it's mainly just kind of power hits and a jab or two, and then he'll have a bit of a wrestle and do a bit of jiu-jitsu. Like, he's that kind of build. Not a pure grappler, but not a striker at the level like Izzy is. Like, Izzy's a freak on the stand-up game. Has been for a long time. He just looks slow. It looked like he was kind of moving at 75% speed half the night. It could have been something to do with his weight cut. Could just be that Strickland's better than him at the moment. Who knows?
But it just seemed like he was in second gear while Sean was in sixth gear. That's really what it looked like, because when Sean got started, like, he wasn't stopping.
I think the highlight, you are correct, the highlight for the whole weekend of me is that Sean Strickland in the US, he's a very controversial speaker. So whether he truly believes it or not, that's up for whoever wants to get in on that. Yes, he says things that are technically not okay, but
what has he said?
Because
I don't know what he said, so this is where I'm a bit out of the loop.
So look, he will drop slurs in pretty easily everywhere he goes, and that's not it can be a big deal, but he'll do that, and he's got some.
Is he from the South?
I don't know. No, and it's not even in that way. You know what? You know Colby Covington, how Kobe kind of went to sell the fight. He just kind of went full MAGA for a year to just build that heel character and really delve into it. Similar to that, but kind of around masculinity, femininity for Strickland. So men are this, women are this. Boys do this, men do this. Like, some of his comments is, I'm not going to let someone who jacks off to cartoons knock me out.
Okay. Well, he's from
he came
California.
over to Australia. California, there you go. But right from the South, California,
Anaheim.
Comes over to Australia, starts talking shit, and then all the Aussies in the crowd are like, yeah, fuck yeah, Brody. It was almost wholesome, the fact that, like, he was accepted by so many of the bogan UFC fans. He was like, the Homelander scene where he's like, oh, they love me.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, because I knew nothing about him. I'm seeing him talk all this trash. I'm just like, you know what? I like this. I like people like this because this is funny.
Yeah, and I think that's what the big takeaway from it too is like, yes, while you were very much on the line and you step over the line and you do say some insulting things too, it does seem more of a humor thing from him than it's a genuine actual thing. And you know what? I don't think we should really take the words of anyone who gets punched in the face for a living seriously at all, ever. That's just a human rule. That they're doing their brand stuff. The big question is, this is the second time this year, or second time in a row, that Izzy has lost the belt to a challenger. So it happened to Pereira. He then revenged that loss, and that was a fantastic 1-2 fight.
Mm-hmm.
You're Dana. Are you going to give Izzy a rematch, or is it, hey man, you actually kind of need to win 1 or 2 more fights in a row against some other young up-and-comers to earn another chance at the title? Where are you sitting on that?
I'd probably give other people a shot at the title. Just purely because Izzy's been in the scene for so long, and like you said, he's not winning at the level he has been. Let's take him out of the pool, give him a few fights, and see if he can work his way back. I've always been a believer of that.
Yeah, and that's where I'm sitting too, where it's like, yeah, the rematch would sell a huge amount, but like, maybe it is time to allow Sean to fight some other young up-and-comers. It is a really cool division. It's the middleweight division. It's the perfect blend between big bodies, power shots, but then also really, really technical skill. You go a little bit lighter, and it's more about technique because they're not as hard hitters. And then you go a little bit heavier. I love Bam Bam. But, most Bam Bam fights take about 45 seconds, and there's 2 punches thrown. One person misses, and then the other fat dude goes to sleep. That's how a heavyweight fight goes. They're awesome.
Not this weekend, it didn't.
Yeah, it was strange.
He got tapped out, and I felt bad because I'm like, I wanted to see the shoey.
Yeah.
Could you imagine the Sydney shoey?
You know what? And it's unique in the heavyweight division in particular, where you have a couple schools of thought because they are so big and so strong. Like, we've seen, Bam Bam is the traditional heavyweight fighter, which is 45 seconds on the clock, just go out there and swing, see what happens. You'll put someone down. Ngannou and Cyril, have been fantastic because they're these massive big bodies, but they also can move like a lower weight class. They're very athletic as well. So there's always that split between the two schools of heavyweight thought where it is, you've got the full power school of just, hey, it doesn't really matter where your physique's at, your fitness is, and they're still fit. Like, that's the thing. We're saying they're the least fit form of the UFC. They're still incredibly fit, man. 15 minutes in a cage is a very, very long time.
No, I agree.
But yeah, like that, and that's the kind of the weakness of that almost bro fighter mentality is that when you do hit someone who's been in the game for a long time and is now aging up, like Volkov's been in the heavyweight division for a very long time, you do start to see them lean back into more of their technique, and that's where the grappling is all about that perfect application of the technique, and it will work. We saw what Nurmagomedov did with just some of the most brutal grappling technique, which was just make the sport boring because no one could touch him, and he left. So I'm sad that we didn't get to see the Western Sydney shoey. Oh well.
Don't you worry about me when there's a shoey gone.
Yeah, but hopefully Bam Bam goes, okay, you know what? I've gotten to pretty much as far as my natural talent can take me. Maybe I need to specialize a little bit, work really, really hard on some technique, work on a little bit of ground game, work on more of a comprehensive fight plan, because he's got the personality and the talent to stay in the top 10 of the division. I'm just concerned that if he doesn't start to develop and change up his game plan moving forward, he's going to become sort of like a gatekeeper, which is like, oh, you're naturally talented than most of the division, but these gentlemen above you are the ones who are doing weird shit, and they're always going to stay on top. So that's what I want to see from him moving forward.
Fair enough. I just want to see him do more shoeys.
I did a shoey at the wedding the other day.
Oh, God.
No one
Why
else
would
did.
you do that? Were you like, I just want to be Daniel?
Well,
I had
Danny. I was well over 8 beers deep, and I was trying to get the groom to do one with me. And I didn't check with him beforehand, so I'd already poured it. So I was like, well, I'm not tipping this out.
Why is it
So
when you or your brother have 8 beers, shit goes wrong?
Oh, man. I don't know. One of life's great mysteries, I think, Andy. So
It's
how
just
are we
you
doing
hit that
for
8th
time?
beer. I think we need to move on to Monza.
We got to get through Monza.
We do have to get through Monza and talk about Singapore.
Okay. Monza. What do you reckon? I agree. Singapore. Nah, we'll do it properly.
You know what? I was so out of it watching Monza, I don't remember what happened. I feel like Ferrari fucked up. Did Ferrari fuck up?
Not really. Not really. So, Carlos did incredibly well. You know what? Ferrari tried to fuck up, but Carlos just kind of turned the radio off and went, no, I'm actually going to perform well here. He had a crazy weekend. This is the big takeaway from Monza. Max won. Okay, well, whatever. Here's your big takeaway from Monza. Carlos was his own pit crew, his own race engineer, his own strategist, and also chased down a thief who stole his watch and caught him.
That's true. He did do that.
Yep. Look, Monza is always a good time of a race, and I think what we'll do is we'll have a little bit of a chat about it now, just so we can get some content out about it. But next week, we'll actually sit down and do a little bit more of an in-depth one.
Yeah, but do a Singapore and Monza split sort of thing.
Yeah, because there was a lot to talk about, and it was a really, really good race. But both you and I have been talking for nearly like an hour and a half. We've just finished
about an
work.
hour.
I can't remember. I can't remember anything.
Here's the key takeaways. Yuki didn't start. Meanwhile, Liam Lawson just finished outside the points. Fantastic result for that team.
Yeah, huge. Huge result.
Piastri off the pace. Lando just got in the points. Nando, not well. I feel like there was an issue with Nando right near the end and he had to pit. Am I right or am I wrong? It looks like I'm wrong.
I can't remember. Like, bro,
Yeah.
You could say whatever you want. I'm like, yeah, that happened.
Yeah, that fucking happened. Look.
Absolutely. Of course it did.
Fucking, you know what we haven't talked about? That's probably more important. Lewis and Woody are confirmed at Mercedes through 2025.
Not shocked on either count.
I'm shocked they kept Woody.
Oh, no, I'm not, man. No, absolutely not. So we have known for a very, very long time that the next person to lead that Mercedes team has been George Russell. That's why he was at Williams for so long. Toto, weirdly enough, has been very candid about it, being like, no, we see the future of Mercedes in that kid. There was no way that he was going to re-sign. What I'm shocked about is Lewis has signed a 2-year deal.
And that the fact he signed a deal for just before 2026. You know what I mean? Like, it gives him options if he does choose to race on.
Yes. Gives him options. And I think the options are only going to be two. It's either stay at Mercedes or leave the sport. I doubt we'll see him jump to another team.
But what if hypothetically he can see that another team is going to hit the nail on the head like fucking Red Bull did going into 2026? Do you think he chases one more year?
I think he does, yeah. No, I've no doubt that he'd take chases. I don't know. I don't know if a team will take a chance on him. He's one of the greatest drivers in the sport and will be.
Well, consider this. Consider this. There's only 2 seats tied up past 2026. Norris and Verstappen. So you're telling me if Lewis Hamilton's like, no, I'm hitting free agency, I'm really shaking up silly season, every team wouldn't throw a fucking contract at him to see which one he takes?
Oh, it's
You'd
so
be
crazy.
crazy.
Kind of. I know it's crazy. I know it's crazy, but here's the thing, right? That's 2026 is two and a bit years away.
Mm-hmm.
Lewis is an incredible driver, but another 2 years, and we saw, and I don't want this to sound negative about Seb, but we saw what happened when Seb went down to a little bit of a lower team. We've seen Bottas also kind of go down and not really do a massive amount that couldn't rightfully be done by another driver on a lower wage that allows a bit more space to play. You know what I mean? Like, every team's going to throw him a contract. Whether it finally goes through and that Lewis is confident enough to make the lunge and a team's happy enough to restructure their entire operating procedure to bring in this absolute phenomenon of a driver, I don't know if it's all going to line up. Now that I've said that, absolutely, Lewis at Ferrari 2026.
That's the only thing you're ever right about.
Yeah, I think so. So that's where I think that is there. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, Charles, I don't know if he'll stay at Ferrari on his next contract renewal. I can't imagine he'd be stoked about it. Carlos is doing a really good job at the moment. He's had a very up and down career at Ferrari, but that's what happens when you join Ferrari. Like, so
nothing goes right
so
for
many
you at Ferrari.
there. And, by that stage, we'll see another evolution of young drivers coming up from F2. So we've got people in there like Teo Pourchaire. You've got people in there.
Liam Lawson.
Liam Lawson. He's in Superform at the moment, but he's definitely coming into the sport before.
No, but if you're talking about those young drivers, then Liam Lawson's in that conversation.
Oh,
another one in that conversation would be fucking Felipe Drugovich as well.
Yep. Absolutely. Nick De Vries will still be sniffing around the sport at that point.
Oh, I don't think he comes
shock
back.
me.
No, I don't think he's back. I think he killed his F1 career going to AlphaTauri. No one's gonna take a plunge on a 29-plus-year-old kid who's had 10 Formula One races and didn't do well in any of them. But I'm sorry, but that's what his career is going to be defined as now.
And that's the logical answer. But I'm saying he's still going to be sniffing around. You know what I mean? Like he's still he'll be somewhere.
His fucking ceiling is a test driver. That's all he's going to be now, test driver.
The classic Ant Davidson.
Yep. The other one.
Davidson.
I was going to say we've also got Schumacher to come back in. He'll probably get another run somewhere.
Yeah, you know what? He's probably more likely than De Vries.
Yes, because he has sponsorship behind him that kind of has money. And he also has a name value that will bring in more sponsorship. Doesn't matter that fucking he spent 2 years at Haas and didn't do much. It's fucking Haas.
Yeah. Gunter spent like 7 years there and hasn't done much. And we love Gunter.
Exactly.
Let's talk about Singapore. So this is such a unique race. This is the one, it's like the boogeyman on the calendar. This is the one all the drivers are terrified of.
Yeah, because you need to fucking prep hard for it.
It's a boring race on track most of the time simply because, and it often becomes a time-limited race too. So, you know, you're racing in the tropics. It's always hot. It's very, very lap. Humid.
It's a long lap.
There's, one runoff area, maybe. The rest is all concrete.
Yep. It's a race of attrition.
Oh, massively. So I think it was, again, Carlos. I'm on Carlos's bandwagon at the moment. Carlos came out and they said, how's your training been? He's like, all our training is about getting fit enough to Singapore. If you're fit enough to do Singapore, the rest of the season, health-wise, is a breeze.
Yeah.
This takes such a massive toll. Like, they lose kilos of sweat and water through this race.
Mm-hmm. So and it's sort of one of those races where if your drink isn't working, it's time to retire the car.
Yeah,
it's just too dangerous.
Absolutely.
It's way too dangerous to leave you out there.
Yeah, it cannot be done. It's not safe. It's awesome because it's under lights, and every time we have a nighttime race, it's particularly special because it's so beautiful. Let's talk about some predictions for it, though. So, who do you think is going to get pole?
Charles.
Oh, really? See, I'm going to say Max on pole.
No, see, what's going to happen? Max is going to throw up his Uno reverse card and be like, no, this is mine.
What league did that happen in? Sorry, that's off topic, but we need to talk about that.
So the meme where the kid threw the Uno reverse card at the
referee?
It was the Sideman charity game with like KSI and that.
That's such a fun game that every year that comes around.
Yeah.
Because they're weirdly pretty good at footy.
Yeah, and it's just like he gets yellow card and he just pulls the Uno reverse card out and the ref's even like, what the fuck? Like, how do I respond
to that? Just hit him with a +4. He's off for 15 minutes instead of 10.
But yeah, no, that's what that came from. But yeah, Max is just going to do that. Charles is going to get pole and Max is going to hold up his reverse card and fucking win the race by 25 seconds. You're going to have Homer Simpson in the background going, boring.
Quite probably. So I guess our piece of viewers' advice for this race is just enjoy the pretty lights. Just lizard brain your way through it and have a little bit of fun.
And it'll be on at a regularly decent time for us.
Yes. I love when it's on at night time, where we actually kind of get to watch a little bit.
It starts at 10
the worst part
p.m.
Is, it's going to go for time. Fucking 5 hours anyway, because there's going to be 7 red flags like there is every year.
What do you mean? There's only going to be Sergeant Stroll, 2 red flags.
Nah, George is racing.
3 red flags. And 1 angry Woody.
Oh, bro. Mr. He turned into me.
Actually, before we go and wrap this up, I have one last question for you because it's starting to pop up a lot more. And by a lot more, I mean pretty much every website that covers Formula One has had an article on this topic. So I need you to take your silly hat off for 5 minutes.
All right.
And just go through this and deconstruct this question and give me an answer at the end. In your best Jack logical way. If you're Aston Martin and you are dead set on becoming a world championship contender, at what point do you tell Lance, this is your final season, we need to move on? Knowing full
4 years
well,
ago.
knowing full well your team boss is his father. I know you're saying 4 years ago. I want you to actually go through it because I reckon it has to happen in the next 3 weeks. If it's going to happen.
We're getting to the point, yeah. So this comes up a lot, and I don't think my answers change from any of the other serious answers I've given over the last 2 years, which is, yes, as much as Lawrence got into this sport to give his son the dream job and support him that way, when Lawrence actually became a team owner and involved in the sport, it fundamentally changed what his goal was, right? So he went in originally sponsoring and owning shares to, get his son a seat and let him have a bit of fun. Once he took that ownership role, this is a businessman. You don't get $1 billion by being a nice, kind, gentle human being who looks after people. They don't exist. Most billionaires out there are there because they have a ruthless streak that they are happy to use. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's kind of how our society works at the moment. Lawrence is now a team owner. He wants to be a world champion because he knows if he gets a Constructors' Championship, that means that he is a world champion owner. I think it has to come soon. I would hope that the announcement is made before the end of the year and that we see a combined Alonso Felipe Drugovich next year in the car.
Is that who you say should get the seat? Because I take a different approach to it. I think Lawrence would want the best now, and he wants that championship sooner rather than later, and he wants to take full advantage of the fact that he has Fernando Alonso on his team. So to do that, you sort of need someone who is at the level of Fernando Alonso driving alongside him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do very much know what you mean. This is why I'm smiling at you right now, because I'm like, okay, pull the Band-Aid off and say Daniel Ricciardo.
I wasn't going to say Daniel, actually.
Who are you going to say?
There is another top-tier driver right now who is currently struggling and has a relationship with the Racing Point family. And if Lawrence could, eat some crow, fucking go and have a chat, then why not try and bring Sergio Perez back with a little less pressure, allow Daniel to move up into that Red Bull seat, and just... It makes more sense that way, in my head.
It does. No, it does, and I like it. I like it so much.
Like, you go to Red Bull as like, hey, look, here's the offer. We'll pay out Sergio's contract. We'll pick his contract up if he's willing to come back. We take the pressure off him. And in exchange, you guys get to sign up Daniel Ricciardo to the main team, which seems to be your long-term goal. And then it also allows them to put Liam Lawson in the AlphaTauri, and you can keep Yuki if that's the way they want to go to.
I very much like that. I do very much like that, because that's the thing, right? I want to support Aston Martin as a team. I think the car looks great. Green is my favorite color. We all, the whole world loves Fernando Alonso.
Yes.
Everyone likes Checo, except for
no one likes
Helmet.
fucking Stroll.
No, and no one does. So it's the right thing to do.
Yep.
And as I said, and I'll say it again, don't even fucking tell Lance. Just send him an email.
The other thing too is China might be getting shafted from Alfa Romeo. That's the other driver that's probably coming on the market. I don't think Guan Yu Zhou is going to stay. I think there's a good chance he's moved on at the end of the season.
Yeah, which is it. And I always have been, and I don't know why I'm such a Zhou fan, but and you already brought it up earlier in the show where that Sauber team's at a very, very interesting point of their career where they're about to morph into the Audi group.
Mm-hmm.
They are putting a lot of money and resources behind it. Bottas has earned his spot in any team with what he's capable of. Zhou is the weakest link there. It wouldn't surprise me if they gave him the tap on the shoulder to bring someone else in to have a really, really strong end of this regulation, start of the next regulation. Where that happens, though, is I don't think Zhou has done enough for any other team to go, yep, we'll bring you on, opposed to any other young driver that's available.
There is one caveat that Zhou brings that no other young driver really brings.
Is that the money?
That's the money that China puts behind him. That's why I said China leave Alfa Romeo, not Guan Yu Zhou. Because if the money goes, then they can sow the seeds of communism at another team.
There's a hell of a way to describe it, Andy.
Well, we've got
fair enough.
We've got the US sowing the seeds of democracy at fucking Williams at the moment.
You know what? Now that we've leveled out the playing field, absolutely. And then we've got the shoeies are being sown through McLaren and Red Bull.
Yes.
And then, fuck, I got no more jokes about that. Yeah, probably. That's my statement on that. Probably all over. That's where I think we will see it go.
Yeah. Well, with that, I think we should leave it. We've done more than I expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm
more
happy
than
with that.
I've expected.
So let me see if I can do the wrap up of both shows in one. So thank you very much for listening. It does mean a lot to us. I know we've been all over the shop the last couple of weeks. Big things have been going on. Adult life's hard, hey. But you can follow us on social media pretty much everywhere. So if you like the motorsport segment of this show, you'll love Formula Bums, which is at Bums Formula on X/Twitter and at Formula Bums on all the other social medias like Facebook and Instagram. And that's all the social medias. There you go. And if you like the non-motorsport talk, then you'll probably love Bums on the Bench, which is, and very conveniently, at Bums on the Bench on every social media thing. This is what happens when you let Andy set up your accounts and not me. In fact, he's taken the keys off me for the domain registration, which I'm not allowed anymore.
The other thing too is we have a YouTube channel that's sort of just sitting there as an archive at the moment. It's Bums Media Group, BMG division.
Forget we called it that.
Yeah. So feel free to go subscribe there. We will, during the off-season, discuss how we will go forward with that, but that's just another thing too. And the other thing I want to mention before I forget, because we needed to mention it last week and I forgot, Bench is going to wrap up in about 3 weeks and go on a little hiatus for maybe 2 months. And this is news to Jack, but it makes sense why. We're going to retool, reformat, and try and figure out the best way to utilize it, because it does feel like it's a bit all over the shop at the moment with a lot of NRL talk.
Oh, absolutely. And I guess we can be pretty candid about what our overall plan was when we began these productions, which was the first 5 years from when we initially started was going to be, all right, year 1 and 2, we're just going to throw as much random stuff at the wall as we can, and we'll start to figure out what sticks.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we start to get regular listeners, and we have. And the best part about that is the feedback that's provided, we do listen to, and we do want to implement different things. So everyone who listens to this at this stage, and for both shows independently or this mixed one, you all came in really, really early days where we're just practicing what we're doing. And we do take it really, really seriously when we have these breaks about what do we actually want to produce to make this not only worth your time, but something that you want to tell people that you listen to. So we will be taking breaks over the summer. We sit down and we rejig everything. It's been a hell of a year for all three of us involved in the production of this show. I'm very excited for next year already. Very excited. So it's going to be fantastic.
Maybe during the off season, we'll do an episode here, there, everywhere. Put it out when we can, but it will be taking a back foot step, and we'll be rejigging everything, looking at ways to improve. And I just wanted to be candid and clear about that before we wrapped up, that this is coming to an end in a few weeks for a temporary basis. It's probably the best way to put it. You know how shows have seasons? Well, this is our fucking off season. We need an off season, A, because we need to fucking rejig ourselves. A lot of us are suffering from burnouts and everything else that goes on with adult life. Mainly me. Fucking 2 full-time fucking jobs and only getting paid for one. Let's put it that way. But also, we just want to make it a more enjoyable experience, like Jack said. Like, we like making it, but we want to make it better for everyone.
Absolutely. And one day we'll take over the world.
One day. Maybe.
All right, we'll see you next week.